Hello and welcome, friends, to episode 5 of JoeShine's Let's Play Kerbal Space Program Career Mode. We are back where we left off, more or less, with Hudson Kerman leaving the sphere of influence of the moon. Now, before we head home, we need to address an issue that I mentioned in passing in the previous episode, which is we've got a couple of goo containers on the body of the ship that's not going home with us. Rather, we're going to ditch it in the atmosphere. So we need to get that science, we need to get the data out of there. Now, we have a lovely little backdrop, so we'll see if we can keep this view. Also give us some light since we're still in the sun. We do an EVA and we drift off into space. No, we don't. We turn on our RCS thrusters on the suit, giving us a little bit of maneuverability. You don't have a really long time, but you've got long enough. We maneuver over to the first of our experiments, our goo containment units, and we have a few options here to collect the data or to reset the goo canister. If you reset, I'm drifting away, I bounced off of it. If you reset, it wipes the data, but we're going to collect the data and take that with us. You see there's a little message there that that removing the data renders the experiment inoperable. Basically, they're saying you can only use this one time for any value, and once you've got it, you're done. Which is why we have a bunch of these on the ship. So I'm recording the audio on this after the fact. There were some problems with the original commentary, and we're going back, so I hope it sounds alright, and I'll test this, see what I think of it. We may use this again on maybe a longer mission. And for now, we'll sit here and watch me in the past fumble around with the fact that space is 3 dimensions, and I was just not lined up right to get back into the into his chair, into the command pod. So yeah, finally I moved the camera around and figure that out. But yes, space is 3 dimensions. So we can store the experiments or just get right back in. And when I did this the first time, I didn't have a lot of experience with pulling data. That was, a relatively new change that I hadn't used much with. So I was getting back out, making sure that everything was still there. But you can also just go in, look, and there we see review stored data. Oh look, there's the mystery goo observation data that we pulled from outside the ship. So we're all set. It does transfer automatically. And that's great, because you can hold on to as many pieces of data as you want. So we get back into the map mode, and we see our periapsis is well within the atmosphere, 27 kilometers up. I did adjust that to what it should have been if we hadn't had the technical issues with rendering last time. So we're on our return trajectory. If we don't do anything, we're gonna come down, pass through the atmosphere, land somewhere on the equator as aerobraking takes effect, slows us down, and eventually brings us in for a landing. I'm gonna accelerate time, and as usual, I'll slow down the acceleration before I pass into the atmosphere. I don't like doing it that high, but you can see that we can accelerate time fairly high out here in space. Once you pass the atmospheric boundary, this is no longer true. You can accelerate time, but it's a physical time acceleration rather than it's basically playing the game at fast forward instead of actually accelerating time within the game. This is to obviously make the physics rendering a little bit easier for the game, and also to prevent you from doing anything goofy like flying around an atmosphere at 100,000 times speed. But we're into the atmosphere now, and we can see our periapsis moving a little, but we can see our apoapsis plummeting because our relative surface velocity is falling. You can see it's already down 2,500, 23. Yeah, we're coming down pretty quickly, and there we see our orbital path is now a ballistic path. We're going into the atmosphere. Seeing the thermal shock effect here reminds me, I had mentioned, I think I'm trying to reach land on this, and I don't think I'm going to. I had mentioned in a previous video talking about mods that there were a bunch of things that I was aware of that I just wasn't using, and yeah, we're trying, but we're not going to make the lamp. That's all right. I always try to get that last bit of science data by collecting a surface sample. Every little bit helps, adds up. So yeah, 2 mods that I'm considering, I'm thinking about. One is Deadly Reentry, and I don't feel very strongly about this. It's neat, and it adds a little bit of danger and challenge to the game. Like I said, I don't really feel very strongly about it because I feel like getting good at safely navigating a mission with Deadly Reentry enabled is going to require more math than I know. And the other mod that I'm thinking about is Remote Tech, and I'll talk about that in a second. But here we see that we earned 102 science points for that mission. And it's good to take a look, because being aware of the science points, this is the currency that you have for the game. You know, eventually they'll include a system for having to purchase your parts. But right now, the resource that you have to spend is science points. So we take a look and we see, for example, the Mystery Goo observations. It's worth 10 points, but there's a varying data value depending on where you are when you collected it. So here, in space over Kerbin, a data value of 1. We got 10 points for that. High in space over the moon, data value of 3. 3 times 10, we got 30 points for it. So that adds up. The further out you go, the more interesting places, remember that's our goal, interesting places, the more science you're going to go. You're going to accumulate. So we come into the research and development, and we know right away we're grabbing the survivability because we want that parachute, we want the landing legs. Now, I think that what I want is the science tech, because the Science Junior, the materials bay, I like that, plus a battery. Our other options at the moment are advanced rocketry, and the big reason would be this fuel tank. It's twice the size of the fuel tank that we had, the larger one that we have right now, and it'll add a little bit of stability if I don't have to have quite as many tanks stacked on top of each other, but at the moment it's really not a big deal. This one, I'm sorely tempted. The strut connector makes my life easier. The radial decoupler would be nice as well, and the stack tricoupler, splitting a single stack into 3, would be nice. This one, flight control, we'll get there, but at the moment it's less. Like, I would like those fins, but at the moment we're not doing probe missions. So what I'm going to do is the science tech, that battery, and an additional experiment. So speaking of not doing anything with probes, we're doing another manned mission, and we see a silly ship that I put together. Basically, before we go out into the wild, dark yonder again, we're going to do a quick Kerbin mission. We're going to try and go to the North Pole. And this was just silly, and I was tempted to just re-record this whole section because it was very goofy, but putting 4 material bays around a central stack, I have some lander legs on there to make this sturdy and survivable. I've got a bunch of the radial mounted parachutes, but yeah, this was just goofy, and I don't know why I did that. So yeah, we'll head out to the North Pole with this ship, but we're gonna leave Hudson at home. Now wait, this isn't the North Pole. This is the solar system. Yes, in our last episode we talked about our big goal. We know what we want to do now. We want to visit all the places. At the moment, the Kerbal solar system, the neighborhood, is a big place. We've got Elu, we've got Jewel, Drez, Duna, we know Kerbin, we've got Eve and Moho. But even beyond that, we have moons. Eve has a moon, Kerbin, we've got 2 moons, Duna has a moon, Jewel has 5. It's a solar system in and of itself. And we want to go to all of these places. We even want to get close to the sun, do, a sundiver kind of thing, maybe. But for now, we're heading up to the North Pole. Yeah, we've got Lenlo Kerman here. We think he's going to be our Kerbin specialist. We'll send him around to different biomes. One of the particularly galling things about this goofy little ship that I made is that it was so top heavy and ungainly with all of the and just overpowered or rather unbalanced in the way that I had built the thrust. A bunch of solid rocket boosters on the bottom. It was terrible to control, and so badly, in fact, that I forgot to use 2 of them on the way up. In fact, for one of them I just plain forgot because I was supposed to do it on the launch pad and another on the way up. But that's okay, because Lenlo is going to try and find out if there's a Kerbal clause, I guess. We're going to the North Pole. We're pretty close. But we're up in the Arctic. We're up in the North Pole biome. People tend to forget how many biomes there are around the planet, and it's pretty crazy. The options are great for a lot of exploration around the planet. So I was saying one other mod, the remote tech. Remote tech seems really interesting, and I like the added challenge of maneuvering satellites, maneuvering comsats around. As it almost feels like a puzzle, trying to get everything lined up right to maintain contact. I like the challenge of it. I think it's pretty cool. Until I decide whether or not we're going to do it, I'm going to hold off on using any probes just in case. So, we'll be fair with that. We won't run an unmanned mission without remote tech and then later decide that we should have had it. Going down, we're gonna do a few more of these science experiments, and it was silly, but we're gonna get a little bit of science, and that's the point. I'm having a lot of fun with this series, and I hope that people are enjoying it. Haven't done much previously with promoting it, and I'm gonna start doing a bigger push with that now that the 5th episode is up. So if you enjoy it, please share it around. Let people know. Let me know. Leave comments down below the video. Hit me up on Twitter, JoeShine. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on the series and your thoughts on the Bouncing Kerman. What you would like to see next. So, as Lenlo gets ready to do some snow angels, have fun. Game on.